Today I will give you information about a company whose shares some sources expect to rise by more than 6,000% by the end of 2026, and that is quite a high figure. Before moving on to the video, let me remind you that by the end of September I have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers. If we can reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I will open up and share with you one by one all the companies I keep in my portfolio that have already taken off and earned me serious money. If you're interested, make sure to subscribe so we can reach our goal together. At the same time, this is not the first company I've shared with you. Up until now, I have done detailed research and shared companies like Rigetti, AMPX, and Wolf with you while they were still in their early stages, and since then most of them have gone up by hundreds of percent. Make sure to check those videos on my channel because these companies are still in the early phase and promise huge opportunities. As for the company I'll talk about today, as you've seen in the title of the video, it's Incannex Healthcare. In this video, I'll tell you everything you need to know, from what the company does, its projects, partnerships, and management, to analysts' future price forecasts about this company. So let's get started. This company is a clinical-stage biotechnology firm mainly working on cannabinoid and psilocybin-based drug candidates. The company's goal is to develop multi-use drug combinations for chronic illnesses. For example, IXHL-42X is being studied for the treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. PSX-001 is a synthetic psilocybin-based candidate for treating anxiety disorders, and IHL-675A is being developed for inflammatory diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. Incannex is listed on the US Nasdaq exchange under the ticker IXHL and is an Australia-based clinical research company. In addition, the company is opening therapeutic clinics in Australia under the name Clarion, which serve as a model to support the future commercialization of its drugs. In the fiscal year 2024, Incannex generated only a small amount of revenue but recorded a net loss of about $18.5 million due to high costs. This is actually an improvement compared to the $48.8 million loss in 2023. On the other hand, the company's cash reserves fell to $5.9 million as of June 30, 2024, compared to $22.1 million in 2023, showing weakened liquidity. However, thanks to recent financing operations, Incannex secured around $50 million in cash, while its debt remained at just $1.7 million, slightly improving its financial position. Research and development expenses in 2024 were $12.9 million, and administrative expenses were $17.2 million, both higher than in 2023 since the company is actively working through several clinical trial stages. Revenues are nearly non-existent. In 2024, the company earned only $12,000 from customers, which is insignificant compared to expenses and has led to a high net loss. As of August 2025, Incannex's market capitalization was around $37.5 million, with the stock price near $0.40, though highly volatile and currently fluctuating around $0.50. From a financing perspective, between 2023 to 2024 the company planned to raise up to $59 million with arena investors, of which $50 million came from an equity line and $9 million from convertible notes. Additionally, through buyback mechanisms, $24.7 million worth of shares were repurchased, and $347.2 million future share warrants were cancelled, which reduced debt pressure and helped stabilize capitalization. In summary, Incannex currently has no revenue-generating product, operates with high R&D costs, and its future success depends on the results of its clinical trials. The strength of Incannex Healthcare's R&D portfolio lies in its diverse and innovative drug candidates. It's important to briefly go over the company's current priority programs. IHL-42X is a drug that combines dronabinol and acetazolamide for the treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. The goal is to reduce the apnea-hypopnea index, which measures the frequency of breathing interruptions during sleep. In the first half of 2023, a Phase 2 trial in Australia showed significant improvements in OSA symptoms at both low and high doses, including up to an 83% reduction in AHI. Currently, the drug is in a global Phase 2 of 3 trial covering the US, UK, and the EU. If successful, its sales potential is considered very high. The next candidate, PSX-001, is based on synthetic psilocybin and designed to treat generalized anxiety disorder in combination with psychotherapy. In a 2023 Phase 2 trial in Australia, the drug proved safe and effective. Patients in the active drug group recorded a 12.8-point reduction in HAM-A anxiety scores, compared to just 3.6 points in the placebo group, showing nearly 4 times greater effectiveness. The drug has received approval from the FDA in the US and the MHRA in the UK for a Phase phase 2b trial that will include 94 patients. Company leadership described the results as subtle but promising, while managers called them an excellent achievement, raising high expectations for future development. Meanwhile, IXHL 675A, a combination of cannabidiol and hydroxychloroquine, targets inflammatory diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. In 2022, a phase 1 trial on healthy volunteers was successfully completed, proving its safety. In 2024, a phase 2 trial began in Australia with 128 patients suffering from high-risk rheumatoid arthritis. Results are expected in the second half of 2025. If successful, the drug could have sales potential in the domestic market and may expand into the US. In 2024, a phase 2 trial began in Australia with 128 patients suffering from high-risk rheumatoid arthritis. Results are expected in the second half of 2025. If successful, the drug could have sales potential in the domestic market and may expand into the US. IXHL 216A is a CBD and isoflurane inhalation drug aimed at treating concussion and complex traumatic brain injuries. In 2022, an initial FDA meeting allowed the drug to proceed under the 505(b)(2) pathway. Lab studies are ongoing, and in collaboration with the NFL, animal models showed the drug can restore memory. This field has massive global market potential. The experience of Incannex Healthcare's management team plays an important role in the company's progress. President and CEO Joel Latham is a leader with over 20 years of experience and has guided the scientific team while emphasizing process optimization and research achievements in the 2024 annual report. The company has brought in well-known experts in psychiatry and psychedelic research, including Professor Paul Lachnitsky, Dr. Suresh Sundram, and psychotherapist Sean O'Carroll as directors and advisors at its psychedelic clinic subsidiary. These specialists bring international expertise in setting up and managing clinical experiments and support Incannex's strategy to boost shareholder and public confidence. Looking ahead, Incannex has clear 3 to 5 year goals. The company plans to complete phase 2 of 3 trials of its key drug candidates like IXHL 42X, PSX-001, and IXHL 675A and publish results. Data releases are expected in the coming months, and if successful, regulatory submissions will begin. Leadership has said they will seriously prepare for commercialization of IXHL 42X and PSX-001 if the trials succeed. In addition, Incannex aims to expand the successful model of its Clarion pilot clinic in Australia to other major cities, including internationally. The first clinic opened in Melbourne in 2023 as the start of this plan, and the company believes psychedelic-assisted clinics could represent a multi-billion-dollar market. In the long run, Incannex intends to bring IXHL 42X and IXHL 675A to market through FDA and EMA approval under the 505(b)(2) pathway. To achieve this, clinical data is being gathered and consultations with regulators are ongoing. The company also plans to collaborate with psychiatrists and general practitioners to expand the use of its drugs and, especially in the US, In summary, Incannex is focused on delivering new treatments through biomedical engineering and clinical methods, confident in the opportunities of psychedelic therapy in the post-COVID era, and aiming to create long-term value for shareholders. Recently, Incannex Healthcare has formed a series of strategic partnerships that strengthen its product and service model. In June 2025, it reached an agreement with Mind Medicine Australia to open a psychedelic therapy clinic in Melbourne through a 50:50 joint venture. Leadership described this step as a strategic milestone aimed at creating long-term shareholder value. The new venture will deliver psychedelic therapy services with organizational and training programs, strengthening Incannex's position in the mental health field. In March 2023, a deal with Catalent secured GMP-compliant clinical and commercial manufacturing of psilocybin for the PsyGAD program. This collaboration supports the development of high-quality drug forms and is essential for future regulatory submissions. Company leadership highlighted that this supply boosts both research and commercial potential. In April 2023, the company also signed an agreement with Canadian firm Pharmala Biotech to supply GMP-grade MDMA and psilocybin. Pharmala will serve as the initial drug supplier for Incannex's psychedelic therapy clinics in Australia. In 2024, Incannex opened its first psychedelic therapy clinic in Australia under the name Clarion, initially offering ketamine treatments and later psilocybin therapies. This clinic will support the commercialization collaboration model of PSX-001, and expanding clinics remains a strategic priority. In addition, in 2023 Incannex signed a collaboration agreement with QPS for treatments of nicotine and opioid addictions in China and globally. On the regulatory side, experienced experts like former FDA specialist Robert B. Clark have joined the board. In summary, Incannex is building a broad network with hospitals, drug manufacturers, and other partners, strengthening both its research and commercial capabilities. Leadership believes these collaborations will create long-term value for shareholders. Before moving to analysts' forecasts about the company, let me mention that if you want to receive up to $30 worth of free stocks or crypto, you can register on the Quantfury platform using my invite code from the pinned comment below and claim your reward. And if you enjoy my videos, you can also buy me a coffee using the other pinned link in the comments, which helps keep me motivated to continue making content. As for analyst opinions, according to TipRanks, Incannex is not officially covered by Wall Street analysts and therefore has no specific price target. Platforms like Yahoo Finance, Macro Trends, and MarketBeat list consensus ratings and forecasts as no data available. At the same time, MarketBeat shows the consensus rating for Incannex as insufficient data, while Zacks places the company in its level 3 hold category, expecting average returns. In short, major investment firms have not yet formed a unified opinion on Incannex. From a short interest perspective, MarketBeat data shows about 10.7% of Incannex shares are held short, meaning some investors are betting the stock will fall. In recent months, this figure rose 66%, reflecting certain pessimistic expectations in the market. Analyst forecast models present different perspectives. A research report by Stonegate Capital Partners, using a discounted cash flow model, estimated a fair value range of $1.05 to $2.86 per share for IXHL, with an average of around $1.70. On the other hand, StockScan.io's AI-based forecast projects the stock could reach $33.59 by the end of 2026, representing a 6,249% increase from current levels. While optimistic numbers are also suggested for distant years, such as $21.83 in 2030 and $63.5 in 2045, these forecasts are experimental and should be taken with caution by market participants. According to Wall Street Zen, one analyst forecasts revenue rising to $20.6 million in 2026, but net losses remaining at $45.9 million. Since it is still a research-based company, revenues are limited and analysts value them conservatively. Outlets like Benzinga and Yahoo News highlight positive developments, but no specific price targets are provided. In summary, analyst views on Incannex are mixed, with no consensus among major investment houses, and market forecasts range from optimistic scenarios to conservative expectations. If you are interested in my personal opinion, Incannex Healthcare is currently an early-stage biotechnology company, which means it carries both huge potential gains and high risk. Investors looking at this stock should consider the long-term outlook rather than short-term returns, because at this stage and especially in this sector, stock prices usually experience strong short-term fluctuations. The company's future will largely depend on the outcomes of clinical trials and regulatory decisions in the US, EU, and Australia. In addition, for those investing in biotech startups, I recommend allocating only a small part of your portfolio to such highly volatile companies, because Incannex still needs to prove its potential. That said, the diversity of its research portfolio and its partnerships offer interesting opportunities. As for analyst projections, the $1.70 average target by Stonegate Capital Partners seems realistic, but in my view only achievable after some early success in clinical trials. As for overly optimistic forecasts from platforms like StockScan.io, these could be misleading, especially for inexperienced investors, and should be approached with caution.